The story begins in a church inside a desolate village, where elderly residents are waiting impatiently. One old woman, Ilse, loudly complains that her entire body aches after a long day of harvesting wheat, and she aggressively demands medicine from a young man. Another elder supports her, grumbling about how disrespectful the younger generation has become. The young alchemist, identified as 20-year-old Magna Grace, calmly addresses Ms. Ilse, reminding her that he had already provided her with a month's supply of healing potions only a week ago, and he gently asks if she has any remaining. A title card reveals this is the first episode, called The Alchemist of the Dying Village. Ilse dismissively claims she drank all the potions, arguing that since the ingredients are sourced from the village, they belong to everyone and his medicine is essentially free, so he should not be so stingy. Magna attempts to explain the risks of overusing the potions, pointing out that there are dangerous side effects, but Ilse cuts him off, insisting she knows her own body better than anyone. Feeling disrespected, Ilse accuses Magna of treating her like a child and justifies her actions by saying she only drank the potions because she believed she needed them. A weary Magna gives in and hands her a large crate filled with new potions, merely asking that she follow the dosage instructions this time. Ilse snatches the crate away from him, muttering that he lacks tact and should have given them to her from the start. Left alone, Magna sighs, reflecting on his difficult position as the only alchemist in Rusha village, a place where the average age of the residents is 60. He looks out at his clinic, which is bustling with people, but he knows that most of them aren't truly ill and have just come to pass the time and chat with their friends. Magna acknowledges that being the only young person in the village means he is burdened with more than just his alchemical duties. He approaches another elderly woman, Ms. Yona, to check on her health. She assures him she feels fine but then points out that a recent storm damaged her roof, leaving a large hole, and she directly asks Magna if he would be so kind as to fix it for her. Magna is surprised by her request to fix it immediately, and as he tries to explain his busy schedule of appointments and gathering materials, another villager demands his attention. This man, whose fracture has already completely healed, insists that he is still in pain and demands more stimulant potion. This perfectly illustrates how Magna is constantly saddled with odd jobs and unreasonable demands simply because he is young. Trying to be reasonable, Magna suggests that the man's natural healing should suffice and offers one last weekly dose. The man, however, uses his unhealed arm as an excuse to order Magna to go shopping for him in town for the upcoming harvest festival during the weekend. This throws Magna into a state of internal panic, as he had already promised to fix Yona's roof that same weekend and realizes he would need to travel through the mountain with no sleep to accomplish both tasks. The old man begins to lecture Magna, shouting that youthful struggles build character and that his generation always obeyed their elders without question. He concludes by complaining that modern kids lack backbone, leaving Magna looking completely overwhelmed by the constant pressure. Later, Magna is seen deep in a forest, gathering herbs and other materials for his potions in a basket. Just as he thinks he has enough, he senses a presence behind him, and a massive, saber-toothed wolf-like monster lunges at him with a ferocious roar. Without hesitation, Magna quickly draws an ornate flintlock pistol and takes aim at the charging beast. A single, powerful shot from his weapon sends the monster flying backward, instantly neutralizing the threat. Magna reflects on his many duties, noting that he is also the one responsible for protecting the village from the dangerous monsters that have been appearing more frequently. He feels utterly drained, with no time for himself, as his weekdays are consumed by medical care and his weekends are filled with errands for the villagers. Finally returning to his clinic, he collapses into a chair, so exhausted that he realizes he completely forgot to eat lunch. When he goes to get his dinner, he discovers that the basket containing his bread and dried meat is empty, and he immediately suspects that Mr. Yagu, an elder known for faking senility when it's convenient, has taken it. With a heavy sigh, Magna decides he must venture out again to find more food before he gets any hungrier, admitting to himself how incredibly difficult his life has become. As he walks up a hill, Magna contemplates the harsh realities of his life. In this dying village, he can't save any money because all his medical services are paid for with bartered goods. As the only young person, he is expected to do everything, but what hurts him the most is the complete lack of gratitude from the villagers, who make endless demands as if it were his natural duty to serve them. Suddenly, the village chief, an elderly woman, calls out to Magna. She asks if he is finished at the clinic and if he is feeling well. Magna offers to check on her, but she dismisses his concern and instead presents him with a basket holding a large, freshly baked loaf of bread. Magna is visibly surprised by the kind gesture, and the chief explains that she assumed he was too busy to bake for himself. She tells him that as the chief, she feels she must repay him for his hard work, acknowledging that the other elders rely on his strength potions to even manage their farming. She emphasizes that Magna does what no one else can and that their survival in this remote village depends on mutual support. Overjoyed and touched, Magna thanks her sincerely, admitting he was starving and that her gift is a huge help. Running off with a renewed sense of purpose, Magna thinks that even though there are many things to dislike about his life, he is the only person who can provide medicine for the village. He feels that the community would collapse without him, so he resolves to do his best, telling himself he can endure as long as there is at least one person who shows him gratitude. The chief watches him go with a mysterious and unreadable expression on her face. Later that night, Magna accidentally falls asleep while gathering materials in the forest. Waking up, he worries about catching a cold and having to face another lecture from the elders. On his way back to the village, he spots a light in the town square and sees the chief talking with a man wearing a strange mask, someone he doesn't recognize as a villager. Hiding in the shadows, Magna eavesdrops and is horrified to hear the chief selling large quantities of healing, stimulant, and strength potions to the masked man. The man praises the excellent quality of the goods, and Magna recognizes the bottles as the exact same ones he had given to the villagers. His shock deepens when the man offers 3.5 million G for the entire lot. The chief scoffs at the offer, pointing out that the ongoing war has caused medicine prices to skyrocket and questions if the man truly wants to lose such a skilled supplier. Intimidated, the masked man apologizes and increases his offer to 5 million G as a sign of goodwill, which the chief accepts with a satisfied smirk. The man remarks on the talent of the village's alchemist for producing so many high-quality potions, and the chief smiles sinisterly as she repeats the word, talented. From his hiding spot, Magna overhears the chief's cruel inner thoughts. She mocks him, thinking that all it takes to manipulate a stupid brat is a loaf of bread and a simple, thank you, to make him work non-stop. She laughs at how easily he is controlled, and this devastating betrayal leaves Magna completely shattered. As the masked man and his subordinate leave in a carriage, he mentions that something feels strange, wondering how the village could possibly acquire the high-quality, magical ingredients for such potions. His foolish subordinate guesses they are just using local grass and pebbles, earning him a sharp rebuke from his superior for his ignorance. The masked man explains that nearly all living things possess a resistance to magic that interferes with alchemy. To overcome this, alchemists use rare and expensive, magical ingredients that have very low resistance, materials that are strictly monopolized by the Alchemist Guild. The subordinate wonders if the village has special connections, but the masked man dismisses the thought, caring only about the profit. Back in his clinic, Magna is consumed by despair. The village chief was reselling his potions, and he realizes this conspiracy likely involved all the villagers, which explains their constant need for more. As an independent alchemist not affiliated with the guild, he understands the gravity of his situation. The terrifying truth dawns on him. The sale of an independent alchemist's creations on the open market is a severe crime, punishable by death. He has been an unwitting accomplice to their scheme. He panics, torn between staying silent and continuing to aid their crimes, or reporting them and facing unknown, but likely terrible, consequences for himself. Overwhelmed with anguish, Magna clutches his head, the chief's manipulative words, "The village needs me," echoing in his mind. He then remembers his master's encouraging praise, "Magna, you're a genius," and a flashback begins. In the memory, a much younger Magna proudly presents a magical creation to his master, an elderly woman dressed as a nun. She praises his incredible talent and urges him not to let his gift waste away in the village. She encourages him to move to the city when he is older and join the prestigious Alchemist Guild. Young Magna protests that he only wants to help her, but his master reassures him that the thought alone is enough. She imparts a crucial lesson. The future of the young should never be sacrificed for the old, and he must learn to value himself more. She then gives him the cross-like necklace he wears in the present. His master tells him that the world is vast, and she is confident he will discover his true calling. The flashback ends with Magna clutching the necklace, having found his resolve in her words. Back in the present, Magna has made his choice and is walking through the forest, determined to head to the city. He is filled with uncertainty, wondering what he will do in a place where he knows no one and has yet to figure out his true purpose. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a piercing scream. He runs toward the sound and discovers a chaotic scene where a large horde of goblins, led by a fearsome ogre, is attacking a merchant's carriage. Two young female adventurers are fighting bravely but are clearly outnumbered. One, a swordswoman, executes a cross-edge technique, while her companion, Liz, lands a powerful jawbreaker kick on a goblin. Despite their skills, the adventurers are being overwhelmed. The other girl, Lucia, cries out in despair that they are all doomed. Liz retorts angrily that she had warned her they should have abandoned the cargo and fled. Lucia argues that they need the money from the cargo just as much as they need their lives. In the middle of their argument, a goblin lunges at Liz. The merchant shouts a warning as Lucia screams her sister's name in terror. In the nick of time, Magna appears and swiftly kills the goblin, saving Liz's life. He calmly tells the stunned adventurers that he arrived just in time. Magna tells the group to hold off on introductions until after he has dealt with the remaining monsters. With a unified screech, the goblin horde charges directly at him. Magna draws two pistols, a sight that shocks Liz, who believes it is impossible to fight so many enemies due to the time it would take to reload. To her amazement, Magna opens fire, unleashing a relentless barrage of shots with incredible speed and accuracy, mowing down the attacking goblins one after another. The merchant and Lucia watch in awe, realizing he is firing continuously without ever stopping to reload. They understand that he is using alchemy at the very moment he fires each shot. The secret to Magna's incredible firepower is revealed. He uses alchemy to draw bullet materials directly from the earth beneath his feet and simultaneously extracts gunpowder components from the nitrogen in the air. He then instantly forms the bullets and powder inside his guns, effectively creating an infinite supply of ammunition. Magna reflects on how he developed this unique skill. Living in a village without access to proper magical ingredients, he trained relentlessly to transmute common materials like grass and rocks into usable substances. This is his ultra-low-cost alchemy, a technique born from necessity. He remembers his master's belief that he might one day even turn pebbles into gold. With newfound confidence, Magna declares his technique to be gold transmutation. He continues his assault, wiping out the rest of the smaller goblins until only the massive ogre leader remains, who grunts in fury at the loss of its minions. Magna fires at the large goblin, but Lucia shouts a warning, telling him that the small bullets won't be enough to harm it and urges him to run. Ignoring her warning, Magna slides deftly under the ogre's clumsy attack. With a determined expression, he reveals that his gold transmutation doesn't require specific materials, and that the last bullet he fired into the beast was special. Suddenly, the bullet embedded within the ogre activates. It begins to alchemically combine with the iron present in the creature's own blood. In a gruesome display of power, massive iron spikes erupt from within the ogre's body, piercing it from the inside out and killing it instantly. The adventurers stare in utter amazement as the slain beast collapses. Lucia marvels that it was as if a sword had grown from inside the goblin, calling his ability amazing. Magna breathes a sigh of relief, the battle finally over. The merchant rushes over to thank Magna profusely for saving them all. Magna then turns his attention to the injured adventurers and, picking a few nearby wildflowers, places them in test tubes. Using his gold transmutation, he instantly transforms the simple weeds into potent healing potions. The merchant is stunned to see him create a potion from nothing but weeds. Liz immediately offers to pay for the healing, but Magna explains that as an unlicensed alchemist, he cannot accept money for his services. Lucia, however, steps forward to express her gratitude. With a huge, bright smile that reveals her sharp, fang-like teeth, Lucia thanks him with genuine and heartfelt appreciation. Her sincere gratitude catches Magna completely off guard and touches him deeply. A warmth spreads through Magna as he finally remembers his original motivation for learning alchemy. He tells her she is welcome, realizing that all he ever wanted was to make people smile, just as his master had taught him. With his purpose now crystal clear, Magna solidifies his plan. He will go to the city, get his license from the Alchemist Guild, and become a proper alchemist who helps countless people. The merchant, overhearing his destination, exclaims that they have luckily run into a genius alchemist. The merchant offers Magna a ride in their carriage as a small repayment for saving their lives, explaining that their group is also heading to the same town. Lucia is ecstatic at the idea, relieved that she won't have to worry about monsters with Magna around, which prompts a playful reminder from Liz that they are supposed to be the guards. Meanwhile, back in Rusha village, the church bell rings an alarm. The villagers have discovered that Magna has fled. The chief inspects his empty room, noting that his pack and all his valuables are gone, and correctly deduces that he discovered their scheme and ran away. The other elders panic, terrified of returning to their old life of poverty after getting a taste of the wealth his potions brought them. The chief, however, remains calm, stating that the only place Magna could go is the town at the base of the mountain. She opens a hidden stash filled with might potions, and declares that they will hunt him down and drag him back. The chief distributes 5 bottles of the powerful potion to each of the enraged villagers. They drink it down while cursing Magna, calling him an ungrateful orphan who forgot the favor they did by allowing him to live in their village. They angrily declare that the brat needs to be taught a lesson about a child's duty to care for their elders. Under the influence of the potions, the villagers transform into hulking, monstrous versions of themselves, their bodies swelling with unnatural muscle. One of them snarls that Magna isn't getting away, his eyes glowing with rage as he vows to enforce what he sees as his right, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation. The group arrives in the bustling mountain town of Kremlin, where Lucia and Liz gaze in awe at the massive Alchemist Association building, remarking that it looks just like a castle. Their carriage pulls up to the impressive stone structure, ready to drop Magna off. Inside an office, the merchant tells Magna that he is quite lucky, as a special recruitment exam is currently underway. He adds that a rumor is circulating about the association being short on personnel because of a war in the West, and Magna recalls the black market trader from his village mentioning something similar, confirming the information. As he prepares to leave, Magna thanks the adventurers for bringing him to the city. Lucia and Liz both offer him enthusiastic encouragement, cheering him on and wishing him the best of luck on his exam. Magna watches them go, feeling a sense of warmth from their kindness and thinking that his new life is already off to a promising start. Magna confidently approaches a receptionist inside the grand building and declares his intention to take the recruitment exam. The receptionist gives him an application form, asking him to provide his name, hometown, and a brief background before heading to the courtyard. With firm resolve, Magna begins to fill out the form, ready to sever ties with his past and officially become a proper alchemist. He finds his designated spot, station number 32, in a vast courtyard filled with rows of alchemy stations. Magna is immediately impressed by the high-quality equipment, a significant upgrade from his master's old and broken set, and he feels confident he can create potions with much greater precision than ever before. Looking around, Magna feels a sense of wonder at being surrounded by so many other alchemists, a stark contrast to his isolated life where his master was the only other practitioner he knew. He observes some candidates setting up their own high-end equipment, like a woman with a special quartz staff designed to enhance alchemy efficiency. This makes him reflect on the application's request for an alchemy school, a section he had to leave blank. As a nearby clock ticks, signaling the start of the exam, a nervous energy fills the air, and one of the candidates begins to look anxious. A female instructor with glasses announces that the exam will now begin and instructs everyone to open the wooden box at their station to see the task. Magna opens his box, a look of curiosity on his face. Inside, he finds a bundle of heal leaf. Magna is amazed, recognizing it as a top-grade ingredient packed with powerful healing properties. However, his enthusiasm is not shared by the other examinees, as one of them loudly complains about the ingredient, calling it low-grade garbage. The discontent spreads quickly, with other candidates agreeing that the heal leaf is nothing more than junk. The instructor addresses their complaints, explaining that while this ingredient would normally be considered substandard, the high demand for healing potions due to the war has forced them to make an exception. The goal of the exam, she clarifies, is to test their ability to produce a healing potion even with these less-than-ideal materials. The instructor states that all examinees are free to use the provided alchemy stations, their personal equipment, and any other available items in the hall. She makes it clear that they are searching for alchemists who can adapt and perform under pressure, and anyone who finds the task too difficult is welcome to withdraw. This news causes one young man to despair, admitting he was never taught how to refine such poor-quality ingredients at his school. Disheartened and feeling the task is impossible, many of the examinees begin to give up and leave the courtyard. Magna watches them go, completely bewildered by their reactions. To him, this damaged ingredient is a world apart from the simple weeds he was forced to use back in his village. It is far more potent and significantly easier to work with. Magna holds the heal leaf and realizes its potential is far greater than what the task requires. He understands that he could create a full recovery potion with it, not just a simple healing one. He faces a choice. He could play it safe and make the assigned potion by holding back, or he could showcase his true abilities. He considers the difference between a basic healing potion that restores a little stamina and a full recovery potion that replenishes both health and mana, concluding that the latter is undeniably superior. Lacking a formal education or fancy degree, Magna knows that his only chance to succeed is to prove himself through pure skill. With a surge of determination, he decides to go all in and create the most powerful potion he can. Meanwhile, a blonde, stern-looking man named Professor Klaus storms up to the female instructor, waving Magna's application in his hand. He angrily demands to know who allowed a self-taught alchemist from a backwater village, with no formal schooling, to participate in their exam. The instructor calmly explains that the special recruitment drive specifically waived education requirements in order to attract as many candidates as possible. Professor Klaus scoffs at her explanation, shouting that no education required was meant to imply that the prestige of one's school didn't matter, not to open the doors to trash. He furiously asks where the unqualified candidate is so he can personally throw him out. Just then, another staff member directs the instructor's attention to Magna, who is approaching to submit his completed work. Magna proudly holds up an ornate bottle containing a shimmering liquid, announcing that it is an elixir he created. He explains that while he could have made a standard healing potion, the high-quality ingredients and equipment inspired him to do his absolute best. The female instructor stares at him, completely stunned by his claim. Professor Klaus snatches the bottle from Magna and uses an analyze spell to verify its properties. The spell confirms that it is a magical potion that instantly restores both health and mana. Despite the undeniable evidence, Klaus is forced to admit that Magna has somehow created a genuine, real elixir. His initial shock quickly turns into explosive anger. Klaus brutally kicks Magna to the ground, accusing him of being a liar and a cheat. He furiously yells that it is impossible to create an elixir using only basic healing ingredients and that Magna must have brought the potion with him from outside. Magna desperately pleads his case, insisting he made the elixir with the ingredients provided and even offering to replicate the feat right there to prove his innocence. However, Professor Klaus silences him with a roar of "Enough." He coldly states that the real disgrace was allowing a civilian on their grounds and that in normal circumstances, Magna would be handed over to the guards for such an offense. With a final, furious warning for Magna to never show his face at the association again, Professor Klaus has the large gates slammed shut, leaving a rejected and bewildered Magna standing alone outside. On his knees outside the massive walls, Magna is utterly crushed and confused. He struggles to understand why he was thrown out, initially thinking it was because he didn't follow the task precisely. But he quickly realizes the truth lay in the shocked and disbelieving reactions of the other alchemists. They simply couldn't believe it was possible to create what he did with the materials they were given. The profound realization dawns on him. What he accomplished is considered impossible in the established world of alchemy. He recalls his master's words that he might one day turn pebbles into gold, a phrase he had always taken as a simple encouragement. But now, faced with the limited abilities of formally trained alchemists, he begins to question everything. A new, staggering thought enters his mind. Is it possible that he is a far more talented alchemist than he ever imagined? The idea is so overwhelming that he lets out a hollow laugh. But the momentary hope is quickly extinguished by a harsh reality. Even if he possesses extraordinary talent, it means nothing if he's not part of the association, as he has no way to legally sell or distribute his creations, rendering his alchemy worthless in the eyes of the world. Just as he's sinking into despair, wondering what to do next, he hears a cheerful voice call his name. He looks up to see Lucia and Liz approaching him, their expressions full of concern. Lucia excitedly rushes over, assuming that he passed the exam with flying colors. She and Liz are completely shocked when Magna dejectedly tells them that he failed. He tries to explain that the exam itself felt easy, which only confuses the sisters more, as they can't understand how someone with his incredible power could have possibly failed. After Magna recounts the events, Liz becomes furious, calling the association's actions awful for kicking him out without even listening to him simply because he was a civilian. Lucia quickly grasps the situation. His plan to join the association failed, and now he is effectively unemployed. Magna can only nod in defeated agreement. With a sudden burst of inspiration and a brilliant smile, Lucia makes an unexpected proposal. Magna should become an adventurer and join their party. Magna is completely taken aback by her offer. Liz immediately questions her sister's impulsive suggestion, but Lucia defends her idea, insisting that Magna is seriously reliable and that it would be far more fun for him to hang out with them than to waste his time with people who are unable to recognize his immense talent. Her words leave Magna speechless. Sensing his hesitation, Liz begins to apologize for her sister's bluntness, but Magna stops her. He looks up, a new light in his eyes, and admits that Lucia might be right. He realizes that he was being foolish. Just because he can't sell his alchemy through official channels doesn't make it worthless. He has people who believe in him, people like his master, the merchant, and now these two sisters. With renewed confidence, Magna smiles warmly and asks if they would be willing to let him team up with their party. Lucia is ecstatic at his response, though Liz is still surprised, reminding him of his original goal. Magna simply affirms his decision, ready for a new path. He explains that being an adventurer, fighting monsters and retrieving useful items from dungeons, is an important job that helps society. Furthermore, he'd much rather have fun traveling with them than humiliate himself by begging to join the arrogant Alchemist Association. Overjoyed, Lucia throws her arms around him in a tight, welcoming hug. As a blushing Liz scolds her sister for being so embarrassing, Lucia happily declares that she's finally found a legitimate healer and has no intention of letting him go. And just like that, enveloped in an enthusiastic embrace, Magna's new life as an adventurer begins. Back at the association, Professor Klaus learns that only 2 of the more than 50 applicants passed the exam. The instructors discuss the difficulty of the task, noting that most candidates lacked the fundamental skill to even channel their mana into the substandard ingredients. One of the 2 who passed, examinee number 31, nervously approaches the instructors to defend Magna. She insists that the civilian did not cheat, recounting how she witnessed him create a genuine elixir with alchemy more precise than anything she had ever seen, using only the materials provided. Professor Klaus dismisses her testimony as ridiculous, listing the rare and legendary ingredients required for such a feat. Certain that Magna cheated, Klaus declares he will expose the liar. He retrieves Magna's elixir and a magical catalyst called Sand of Time, which can revert a processed item to its original components. He pours the sand onto the elixir, confident it will reveal the true, illicit ingredients. To the absolute shock of everyone present, the elixir glows and transforms not into rare materials, but back into the simple heal leaf from the exam. Klaus and the instructors are left speechless and utterly bewildered. Klaus frantically tries to find a logical explanation, questioning his own analysis spell and then the integrity of the Sand of Time, but knows both are flawless. With every other possibility ruled out, Klaus is forced to confront the unbelievable truth as he watches Magna walk away in the distance with his new friends. The young man had actually, impossibly, created an elixir from low-grade material. Left reeling from this paradigm-shattering revelation, Klaus stares after him, muttering in disbelief, "Just what is that guy?" as the chapter comes to a close. The concept of adventurers, who are depicted as a diverse group of people, including a witch and a muscular warrior, who undertake various jobs for civilians and even royalty. Their tasks are shown to be incredibly varied, ranging from exploring dungeons and slaying dragons to escorting important individuals and, sometimes, even performing simple housework. Having been accepted by Lucia and Liz, Magna officially begins his new life as an adventurer in their guild, Cat's Paw. However, since they are still a new and low-ranked 1-star guild, they don't get assigned glamorous missions. Their very first task is a humble one, helping with the apple harvest at an orchard in a mountain village. Magna is shown picking a shiny red apple, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Lucia joyfully shows off a large barrel overflowing with apples she has picked, all of which look delicious. She cheekily asks if it would be all right to eat one, but Liz sternly tells her, of course not. Just then, the owner of the orchard approaches them with a smile, assuring them that it's perfectly fine. He explains that they've had such a bountiful harvest this year that he's happy to share, encouraging them all to help themselves. With the job complete, the scene shifts to the imposing Adventurers Guild building in the Kremlin branch. Magna reflects that he was initially wary, thinking the simple harvest job might be some kind of shady setup, but he was proven completely wrong. Inside, a smiling receptionist confirms that his registration documents are all in order. The receptionist explains the final step in the process, creating his official guild card, which will serve as his adventurer ID. She instructs him to place a blood seal on the card, which will then read his stats and convert them into a numerical level. An example of Lucia's card is shown, displaying her as a level 7, 15-year-old female of the Dual Blades class, affiliated with Cat's Paw. The receptionist adds that since an adventurer's level is tied to their guild rank, it's best to update the card at least once a year. She further explains that the guild's ranking system, which ranges from 1 to 5 stars, is based on the accomplishments of the guild and its members. This system ensures that adventurers do not take on missions that are beyond their capabilities, thereby protecting clients from potential losses. The more stars a guild has, the more difficult and high-paying jobs they can accept, with the prestigious 5-star rank even earning adventurers invitations to royal banquets. The receptionist informs Magna that it will take about 10 days for his new card to be developed and that they will notify him when it's ready. She smiles and tells him that gaining even a single star takes about 10 years on average, so he should take his time and hang in there. With the registration process complete, Magna joins the sisters to look for their next request on the job board. While looking for jobs, Liz seems distracted and asks Magna if he is truly okay with joining their low-ranked guild, pointing out that someone with his skills could easily join a more established party. Magna reassures her that it's fine, reminding her that he only became an adventurer because she and Lucia invited him, and he playfully asks if his presence is bothering her. A flustered Liz quickly denies this, insisting that he is super reliable. Suddenly, her attention is caught by a job posting on the board, and she exclaims that it looks amazing. An excited Lucia grabs the flyer, showing it to Magna and Liz, her eyes wide with disbelief at what it offers. Magna takes one look at the flyer and is immediately filled with dread, recognizing it as a shady job. The request is for village harvest help, welcoming 1-star adventurers and promising that anyone can do it. It guarantees money with a starting pay of 500,000 G, plus a performance bonus, and includes bizarre, unprofessional phrases like, "Women are thriving here too," and a hashtag that reads, "Totally legit." While Lucia is dazzled by the insane pay, which is 50 times what they earned on their last escort mission, Magna is horrified. Liz, just as excited as her sister, declares that they have to accept the job before anyone else does, but Magna can't believe they are seriously considering it. He points out that the entire posting screams scam, highlighting the ridiculous hashtag totally legit as proof that it's anything but. Lucia, however, remains unconvinced. She reminds Magna that all jobs posted through the guild must be legitimate, as clients are required to undergo identity verification and pay the reward in advance. The receptionist confirms this is the guild's policy to filter out shady requests. Seeing that Lucia is determined to take the job, Magna reluctantly gives in, though he still feels uneasy. Back at the apple orchard village from their new job, Magna admits to himself that he has bad memories associated with countryside villages. However, he notices that this place is filled with many other young people, which gives him a sliver of hope that it won't be as closed off and toxic as his former home. As they finish their work, a young man from the village approaches them with a smile, thanking them for their help. He invites them to stop by the village chief's house before they leave, saying that there is some delicious apple pie waiting for them as a special treat. Lucia's eyes light up at the mention of apple pie, and she is immediately on board. Liz hesitates, feeling that the generous reward is already more than enough, but Lucia grabs her, arguing that they can't pass up such a wonderful offer from a client, especially since they might not get another chance to eat something so fancy with their current earnings. She then turns to Magna and enthusiastically urges him to come along, and he agrees. They arrive at the village chief's house, which appears to be a normal, cozy home. Inside, they are greeted by the chief, an elderly man named Zach. He thanks them for their assistance, explaining with a laugh that their village had a bumper harvest this year, leaving them short on hands but with plenty of money to spare for a generous reward. Zach serves them the promised apple pie and tea, calling it the village's specialty. As Lucia and Liz inhale the delicious aroma, Magna's suspicions are rekindled. He discreetly uses his analyze skill on the food being offered to them. His analysis reveals a horrifying truth. While the pie contains normal ingredients like wheat flour, butter, salt, apples, rum, and kudzu starch, it is also laced with a deadly poison, wolfsbane. Without a second of hesitation, Magna springs into action, violently slapping the pie out of the chief's hands just as he is about to serve it. Lucia and Liz are shocked by his sudden outburst. Magna calmly turns to them and reveals that the pie is poisoned with enough wolfsbane to paralyze them for an entire day, and he orders them to get their weapons ready. The chief's friendly demeanor vanishes, replaced by a cold, hard glare. Seeing their plan has been exposed, he gives the order to the waiting villagers to capture all 3 of them, leaving the adventurers surrounded and outnumbered as the chapter ends on a tense cliffhanger.